to your March 2024 astrology forecast. I hate March. It's literally my least favorite month. If I could take out February, March, and April out of the year, I would be so happy to do so. I do not like spring. It is my least favorite season. With that being said, I'm not going to bring bad vibes to this reading. I'm only saying it from a place of being biased, one, because I'm on the East Coast and I hate this weather, and that's why I had to put my hair up, because it's so frizzy because it's raining all the time. Two, because I have my Saturn in Aries, and that means that around this time of year, everything has to cross over my natal Saturn, and it's never a good time. I'm going through a rough time. I know I look cool, calm, and collected right now. It's because I'm trying to be professional and show up and do this reading for you, but I'm really going through it. So please know that that is why this is delayed. I know that last month I said I was going to be better with the timing of these readings, and I want to be better. I do. I got hit with life. Life is lifing for me right now. So with that being said, thank you for being so patient with your reading. And if you haven't noticed already, this is a pre-recording. It's going to be at the beginning of every single forecast for each rising sign. So if you already watched yours and you're like, why is this clip coming up again? This is going to be, I'll put like a timestamp or something like that in the video so you know where to skip to. I just wanted to do this because I find myself when I do all of the rising signs like repeating myself a lot, and it makes me kind of burnt out to do these readings, and I'm trying my best to work smarter, not harder recently, and just make little changes to all my content and my work and stuff like that in order to show up and be the best version of myself and give you guys the value that's actually going to help you. Like, use astrology and understand it and use it as a cheat code, because that's the whole reason that I do this as my job. With that being said, I am making a little bit of a transition in my business. So this isn't like a hard launch announcement. I'm just putting the feelers out there a little bit, that I am going to be moving more into like educational content, creating a course, creating what's the word I'm looking for, like lectures and classes and stuff like that. It's not that I'm not going to be doing readings at all anymore. They're probably just going to be more exclusive, where I take like a handful of clients at a time rather than come one, come all, because that's what I've been doing pretty much my entire business. And while I do love doing it, I've met so many incredible people and worked with like over 1,000 customers so far, I have to admit that I'm burnt out, and I've been burnt out literally since my business took off in 2021. And it's been like a long time coming of me just having to accept that and make the changes that are necessary, because I want to do my podcast again. There's so many ideas that I have that like light me up and excite me, but I always have to put them on the back burner because I have to prioritize my clients first, which isn't a problem, but I just wish I could copy and paste myself and be there all the time for every reading, fully available. And especially when I go through stuff like this, it really takes a toll on me, where I'm like juggling all these responsibilities and all these people that I need to work with, and I like can't even, like, I'm going through something on my own, and then I have to show up and like talk for 4 hours about someone else's trauma while I'm not even processing my own. So I'm just trying to be responsible. I think I've said this like on my TikTok, where I think up until this point I thought the solution was like, oh, I just need to suck it up and work harder. And I'm learning now that like the solution is not working as hard, and I think I just was blind to that solution the whole time. So with that being said, has this been out of focus the whole time? It better not have been. Sorry for the noise. I'm in my little TikTok chair, which was such a good investment. Literally saved my back. But okay, the things that we need to talk about this month with this forecast for everybody across the board, regardless of your rising sign, we have an eclipse at the end of the month. We have an eclipse at the end of the month. There is a door closing at the end of March that opened way back in the fall. Way back in like October 2023. That is the month that I want you to imagine in your mind, because it's going to provide the context for what's closing out now. And the reason I say that is because every full moon that we have is going to be a closure, like a door closing to a door that opened 6 months prior. But when we have that attached to an eclipse, baby, that is like 100 times harder and more intensified. So this is really going to be what was the precursor in the fall is now the culmination and the full circle moment, basically, in the area of your chart that Libra rules. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that. On top of that, we have a new moon in Pisces, so this is going to be a new beginning, a new chapter opening in the Pisces area of your chart. We're making the transition from what is Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, into Aries energy, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So I have the pleasure and the grace of telling you that if you have not been hitting the ground running with your New Year's resolutions, and you're like, girl, we are in the first quarter and I haven't even done anything, it's okay, because it makes no sense as to why our calendar that isn't zodiacal is set up to convince you that in the middle of January, when you're supposed to be like harvesting your nuts and hibernating and preparing for a winter, are you supposed to like transition to this new person. We're supposed to be going with the seasons, baby. It makes no sense why you would like get in a cocoon and blossom in January when everything is dead and cold. So with that being said, as we make our way into spring, it is the new year. Everything's blossoming, everything's like opening up. The seeds that you planted when it was cold and dark and stormy are now going to see the light of day and be able to grow and blossom. So this is your second chance. You always have a second chance. Every day you wake up is a second chance, but this is really your second starting point, I would say, to really take off on your goals, to even just really identify them. I think that people typically tend to get a little bit more independent this time of year and get that fire underneath their butt because we have things that incentivize us, like spring break, it's almost summer, like having a vacation planned, summer plans, things like that, that kind of make you be like, okay, I should probably get up, I should probably start working out, I should probably start saving up, you know, things like that. And you know, with a new beginning comes an ending initially. So we usually have to close things out in order to make room for the new things that are going to be arriving. So with that Pisces energy, that's where it can be the deep, purging, emotional, psychic, intuitive, spiritual endings and letting go, where we are suddenly becoming very poetic and writing in our journal, where we are finding ourselves praying and manifesting, where we are 3 days in of rotting in our bed, and it's totally okay because that's what you're supposed to be doing during Pisces season, is sleeping, resting, reflecting, kind of soaking it all in and learning your lesson of it all. Aries season is that fire coming in, baby. It's like the Kool-Aid man slamming through the wall. Pisces is being like, I just can't let it go, like crying over something, feeling like your world is ending because it is ending, because Pisces does rule endings. And then Aries is that like crying for, like, it's a new year, baby, and you're ready to just like jump out of bed. I would say that the Aries energy, the transition is like Pisces feeling so distraught and heartbroken and purging emotion over all the things you lost, where Aries energy is like the motivation and the discipline coming from your veins because you're ready to get your revenge and prove everybody wrong that doubted you. So it's a fun little transition. It's definitely a big step from one energy to another, but that discomfort is what gets the ball rolling for a new zodiacal calendar year. So I'm super excited. I hope that these readings help you. Again, always check for your rising sign. You need to check for your rising sign. That's the only thing with my readings that's gonna give you the most clarity. So if you're checking for your sun sign and you're like, girl, it's because I told you to check for your rising sign, okay? Is there anything else I need to add? If you want to book a reading in the meantime, while I still have them open, you can go to kmoney.biz. Everything's going to be available in the like description of this video, all the links you need and stuff. So you can subscribe to my Patreon, follow me on other platforms, subscribe to my email list, my newsletter on kmoney.biz, so that way you can see the updates for when I do have courses and stuff coming out. Other than that, I hope you have an amazing month. Please remember that with eclipses, like, you're not going to die. It's not the end of the world. Can they be intense? Yes. They don't always have to be malicious. You don't have to be afraid of going outside. You don't want to fear astrology. When you fear it, it will find you and it will hunt you down and it will make you face it. You want to embrace the change. You want to be open to what it's trying to show you and to teach you. That way you can evolve. If you're scared your whole life, you're never gonna live. And if you're kind of showing up scared and being like, I'm ready to kind of experience it anyways, you're gonna be taken on that very exciting ride. So as we make our way into the new year, into March, I hope that you guys have an amazing month. Please share what you're going through down below, not only because I love hearing what you guys are going through and it makes everybody, I think, feel a little bit less alone, but also because it genuinely helps me do these predictions to see that there is a running line of consistency and a common denominator between people that share the same rising sign. So tell me what you're going through. I hope this helps you guys. Love you, and thank you for watching. Hi Virgo, welcome to your March 2024 horoscope. On the 3rd, Venus in your 6th house was squaring Uranus in your 9th house. This is usually going to bring a sense of friction, conflict, a little bit of just discomfort between your 6th house being your health, your work, your everyday routines. This is your lifestyle, it's your coworkers, it's your pets, it's your even like physical energy if you're lethargic or if you do have a lot of vitality, coming into conflict or disagreement with maybe things that are happening in terms of what you want to be doing, your goals, your ambitions, the territory that you want to be taking up. The 9th house is traveling, faith, philosophy, education, but it's also taking up room. It's expanding far and wide. It's getting outside your comfort zone. It's saying yes to very big opportunities. So when that comes into a little bit of an uncomfortable aspect to our 6th house being what we are capable of, what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, what our body allows us to do, there can be a little bit of friction there. So squares don't always have to be the worst thing in the world. In fact, they're ruled by Mars, so they want you to do something about it. That discomfort is supposed to inspire you to take action, but that's usually going to look like making a decision, making a change, having to confront something. Venus too is also love, money, beauty, pleasure, aesthetics, things that typically feel good. So this doesn't have to be the worst aspect in the world. If anything, there might have been an unexpected change with finances or an opportunity or something romantic, maybe at a doctor's office, in a waiting room, with a coworker, through traveling, through taking a trip, something like that, through an opportunity. Just something to pay attention to because it does come up again later in the month. On the 8th, Mercury was conjunct Neptune in your 7th house of relationships. So Mercury is the planet of communication. Speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, text, emails. It's also just connecting the dots of getting from point A to point B. So it's driving, it's transportation, it's adding things up, it's really analyzing the finer tuned details of things. So to have that conjunct Neptune, which is very dreamy, spiritual, very artistic, but also very deceiving and manipulative and confusing, it could have been a lot of brain fog. It could have been a lot of like, I don't fully understand this. I don't feel like I have the bigger picture on something. It could be that something that you would want to be clear maybe wasn't entirely clear, whether that be like, I'm just confused on how to feel about this, I don't know how to approach the situation. Maybe you're feeling a little bit hesitant, a little bit one foot in, one foot out with something, again, in regards to relationships, clients, business partnerships, people that you work closely with romantically, financially, platonically, whatever it may be. But having that conjunction to Neptune can really blur the lines. It can kind of put a veil over your ability to see things clearly, and again, that can sometimes manifest through things like people maliciously trying to pull the wool over your eyes, trying to hide certain details from you. Trust your gut. On the 9th, Mars in your 6th house was square Uranus in the 9th house. So this is why I said you want to pay attention to that little bit of discomfort that happened in the first few days of the month, because the first time on the 3rd was Venus. So this is love and finances, probably. Uranus being that shock factor, that unpredictability, that shaking the table of trying something new. With Venus involved, that can be like, I'm just going to try this approach for the first time ever, and then you end up liking it. I'm going to try this food that I typically don't really like, and now you start to enjoy it. It's like your taste for things, your flavor for things, your comfort zone maybe abruptly changing. Are you going against the grain, being a little bit non-conforming in that way? But with Mars now having the same aspect to Uranus, Mars is the planet of action, assertion, aggression, how we go after the things that we want. It's our fighting spirit, it's our ambition, it's our vitality, it's our ability to stand our own ground, it's our ability to fight for what we passionately believe in. So when we have that in a square to Uranus, it's quite dangerous across the board. It's very like unexpected war vibes. It's aggressive, it's confrontational, it's hyper independent, it needs to prove a point, it wants to be the loudest, the best, the fastest, even if it's causing damage on the way. Having that between your 6th and your 9th house though might bring some relevance to what happened earlier throughout the month. So again, related to maybe work, health, routine, pets, your lifestyle, your everyday life, the people you work closely with, your physical body, the habits that you take up in your day-to-day life, maybe things that are typically more mundane or just looked over to be more boring or just part of life. And then your 9th house being, again, traveling, faith, philosophy, education, yes, but also like your perspectives, your ethics, your beliefs, your your faith in general. This might have something too to overlap with like legality things, like if you're in a legal battle or if there's something where you're having like a moral dilemma, that can absolutely play into this as well. On the 10th, there was a new moon in Pisces in your 7th house, and then on that same day, Mercury entered Aries into your 8th house. So it's funny because the 7th house has everything to do with everybody close to us, everybody around us that we surround ourselves with. So to have a new moon here can be a new beginning in regards to like having new clients come in, setting an intention to attract a new partner. If you are dating somebody, maybe you're having a new chapter with them. This could be really having some sort of shift in regards to the way that you interact in your interpersonal relationships, again, regardless of what their like theme is, whether that be something financial, something romantic, something familial. Even at times I would say that that's usually more so the 4th house though. But to have Mercury enter your 8th house on that same day leads me to believe that this has more to do with the deeper, more intertwined layers of how you interact with said people. So this is probably less like, oh, I'm going on a, surface level date with somebody that I met off Hinge, and more like, how do I communicate in a way that builds trust with the people close to me? It has a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more intensity. The 8th house has a lot to do with transformation. It's truth, it's surrender, it's really like the need to be okay with being vulnerable, even in moments of feeling doubtful or feeling shame. In some ways, it might be a little bit more practical. For other people, it might be a little bit more literal, because the eighth house has a lot to do with finances as well. This is complicated: finances, trust, and transactions that we share with other people. So trust and transactions can be anything from, how do I price myself? How do I make sure that I'm getting equal give and take between me and my clients? It can also be, how do I make sure that there's equal give and take energetically within my relationship with how much I trust this person versus how much they trust me? It can also be sleeping with people and the trust and the intimacy that's built through sexual relationships. It can equally be signing a lease with somebody, like going in on something financially where you have your amount of debt, somebody else has their amount of debt, and you come into it together with a shared goal or plan. Again, whether that's literally through finances or metaphorically through, like, maybe we're having this unspoken agreement that we are in on this together and diving very deep, even if it gets intense. Mercury going through the eighth house just might make you a little bit more like intuitive, psychic, spiritual, even more nosy, mysterious. Like you could be getting into like occultism a little bit more, or just like being a little bit more of an investigator, because you're taking Mercury and putting it in this very like deep, sort of mysterious, intense area of the chart. On the 11th, Venus entered your 7th house. So if there was any complications at the beginning of the month, Venus is going to come in and sort of ease that up. Venus is the planet, again, of love, money, beauty, pleasure. It really like lubes up the area of the chart that it's going through. It makes it soft, it makes it warm, it makes it fuzzy. So to have it go through the 7th house, it loves being here because this is the 7th house of relationships. It is love, it is partnerships, it is having, at the very worst, like an agree to disagree with your enemies. It has a lot to do with compromise and with contracts and with agreements and shared goals that you have with other people. On the 17th, having the Sun conjunct Neptune in your 7th house of relationships, again though, can kind of conflate the truth or confuse the boundaries or the blurred lines between where you end and somebody else or other people begin across the board. The reason I say that is because on the 8th was when we had that Mercury-Neptune conjunction. I'm confused. I can't see something clearly. I have an eerie feeling. I have a gut feeling. My intuition's kind of going off. I feel like I'm not seeing the bigger picture here as clearly as I should be seeing it. So by the 17th, having the Sun conjunct Neptune, this kind of like doubles down on it. It's almost like undeniable now that there's something here that's either confusing, there's more to it, you're not seeing it entirely accurately, or you just need to maybe lean into faith or belief a little bit more for things to work out. Having this though in your 7th house of relationships, like I really do feel like this is going to manifest differently for everybody across the board. In romantic relationships, of course, if you have any suspicions, maybe trust that. Like I would say that these aspects can definitely pull the curtain back to things that are maybe a little bit more shadier. In terms of something maybe financial, you want to make sure that you're reading contracts over 3 times. You want to make sure that you're being very clear with your communication. You want to make sure that just across the board you're on the same page as other people, so there's no room for being misinterpreted or misinterpreting somebody else. On the 18th, Mercury enters shadow period in your 8th house. So all this means is that Mercury is going to go retrograde next month. Having it enter shadow period just means that it's going to revisit this spot throughout its retrograde cycle, meaning that what's going on right now, what you're talking about, what you're considering, again, in regards to complicated finances, money, trust, or transactions that you share with other people, intimacy, personal transformation, and those more mysterious, intense thoughts, ideas, or concepts that are bumping around in your brain will be revisited throughout the retrograde cycle. So if there's something here that's like super permanent, you need to make a hardcore decision, you know, you need to commit to something right now, it's likely that even if you do commit to it or completely sign your life away, that it's going to be reconsidered. It's going to be, you know, it's going to have the need to be flexible. It's going to need to be something where you're maybe revisiting the drawing board. And Mercury retrogrades in general typically have like a very inaccurate warning symbol to them, that it's like so annoying and it's here to ruin our lives. Like that's really not what it's for. It's here to it's here to pave the way to be clearer for you, but first you need to sort of sort out all of the nooks and crannies, and that way when it goes direct again, you're smooth sailing and you have like a much smoother path than you would have had if we just zoomed right through everything. So it's a time of reconsideration, revisiting the drawing board, be flexible, ask yourself if there's hindrances, obstacles, setbacks, what is this trying to show me and how can I work with this rather than resisting it and working against it. On the 19th, Mercury is going to be conjoining the North Node, and then on the 20th, it's going to conjoin Chiron. So Mercury and the North Node being this close in the sky together really emphasize healing conversations, maybe needing to confront any pain or unresolved wounds or sensitivities, or again, even like issues with energy levels, your ability to feel like you're fully present, maybe feeling stuck in the past, maybe feeling like you're facing physical ailments due to emotional things that are like, you know, how trauma's stored in the body, that sort of vibe. But having Mercury and Chiron and the North Node in the sky kind of set up what is like this divine alignment to confront it, to have a conversation about it, to have a revelation or an epiphany. So maybe you're not having a sit down interview with someone where they're like talking about your deepest wounds and you find the solution. If you are, congratulations. But for most people, it probably looked more like coming to terms with something, acceptance, being able to accept certain vulnerabilities, or maybe where you've come up short in life, or where you have maybe some wounds, or where you feel like somebody else hurt you, having a lot to do with too, like love or relationships, childhood, all of those things as well. On the 20th, on the same day actually, on the 20th, the sun entered Aries, so it's Aries season, baby. This means that a lot of the focus is going to be again on your 8th house. It's doubling down on the really spotlight, moving towards the more intense, transformative, deep, cathartic release area of the chart. So despite the fact that I'm describing it as this like sort of magical area, it's very like gothic. It has that sort of like Grim Reaper vibe because it is also the house that can very much bring you to your knees. So listen, if you are having low energy, if you are kind of feeling like you're getting almost like kicked in the gut emotionally, even if nothing is like physically happening badly in your physical circumstances, like if you're kind of like nothing's really changing, I just don't know what I'm going through internally, like it's just something intense and sad and hard, it's probably because you're going through like a purging period. I know that's like an annoying spiritual buzzword, but you're probably just going through something right now where you're shedding things you've been carrying for a long time that are probably very heavy, and while it might be a little bit uncomfortable right now, it's going to make some room and kind of give you that airy, spacious feeling as everything sort of moves into your 9th house, where you'll have a new, renowned, like a more optimistic perspective as we make our way through late spring into summer. It's good. You want to handle this now rather than later. It just might be a little uncomfortable to go through that process. However, I will say you want to work with it rather than against it. The more you resist it, the more uncomfortable it gets, because it's going to bleed into areas of your life where you don't want to deal with it, rather than like maybe just taking a few minutes before bed, meditating, journaling, great time to do shadow work or something like that, in order to confront it head on and be like, listen, I want to be friends with my darkness. You are not my enemy. You are part of me. Let's get this conversation over with. Other than that, again, you might just be feeling more witchy. You might be wanting to like experiment with spell work or watch some like horror movies or conspiracy theories or something like that. On the 21st, Venus is going to conjoin Saturn. I like this aspect. And as a Virgo rising, like, I don't know, I think that you would maybe like this as well. Venus is, again, the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure. Things that feel good, things that we want. It's our desires. Saturn, on the other hand, is like an authoritative grandparent that's a little bit more traditional and conservative. It makes the rules. It has this sort of almost intimidating vibe to it where you don't want to disappoint them. You want to like make sure you're doing everything right and being on your A game. It's rules, it's restrictions, it's limitations. Saturn is very much like a drought, while Venus is very frivolous in its desires. It wants extra. It wants to enjoy all the finer things in life. It just wants to kind of feel good with no rules. And Saturn kind of wants to follow the rules even if it doesn't feel good. So when you have a conjunction between the two of them, I personally like it because it's kind of showing us, okay, you can still have what you want. Your desire is available to you, but you need to do the work to get to it. You need to be practical. You need to be realistic about it. I think the only people that are going to be facing discomfort or consequences with this are people that have been delusional in their desire for things. And I use that word pretty loosely because I think you should be delusional in life. But this is saying that, you know, if you've been maybe taking advantage of a potential romantic suitor and you're just like, they like me so much they're just going to do whatever I say, and you've been kind of doing that, this might be the day they're blocking your number and you're like, what the hell, I thought this was like an easy win. It could also be the day where you've been treating yourself all winter and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to work it off before spring break, like my body's going to be great by the time summer rolls around and it's 70 outside, you put your shorts on, they don't fit anymore, and you're like, oh, all of that overindulgence has led to me like not meeting my goals. So it's not punishment. It's not saying you can't have what you want. It's saying you very much can, but you got to pull up, you know, your big girl pants and do what you got to do to get the things that you want. Again, worst case scenario, it can be a revelation or a breakthrough or an epiphany where you're like, I have to focus more on delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. And at the very, very worst, it can be realizing you just don't have as much money as you thought you did, or maybe you didn't have as much ease or leeway with something that you assumed. And it can just be a little bit of like oh, okay, we got to like navigate this a little bit more responsibly sort of vibe. On the 22nd, Mars is now going to enter your 7th house. So Mars, again, is the planet of action, assertion, aggression. This is like standing on your soapbox and fighting for what you believe in. It is arguing with a sibling and like trying to win the remote from them. But it's also the energy that comes up when you're about to like sleep with somebody that you're very attracted to, or you're about to, be the first to reach the finish line in a race. Like it has that rolling ball of fire and momentum to it. Having it go through the 7th house can be both the exciting and the conflicting sides of that. It can be exciting in terms of like, if you just started dating somebody, this can be the momentum building very quickly. The relationship is evolving very quickly. You're very attracted to each other. Maybe you're sleeping with each other all the time. Maybe there's like an exciting cat and mouse sort of gameplay happening with each other. It can also be competition with other people and conflict, and really finding that everybody is bothering you and vice versa, and just sort of feeling like you're mad at everybody around you. You feel distance with them. You just want to fight everybody. It can really, manifest differently for everybody depending on how it's going to be configured with your natal placements. However, I would just steer clear of like unnecessary arguments and confrontation. This is a good time to confront somebody if it's valid and long overdue. You might have a little bit more confidence than usual to be like, we got to talk. This is not the time to impulsively get an ego like power boost against the wrong person who actually really cares about you, but you have like something in you where you just got to yell at somebody and you take it out on the wrong person. Like that's the sort of thing that you want to avoid. Maybe a lot of movement, growth, momentum with building clients, with attracting people that want to work with you, whether, again, that be financially with your own business, whatever it is, making a lot of sales, that could be something here as well. On the 23rd, Saturn is entering shadow period. So same thing as Mercury entering shadow. Saturn's a little bit of a slower moving planet, so it's not going to go retrograde, I'm pretty sure, until like June, but it's going to come back to here. It's going to come back to this spot in your chart, meaning that with Saturn being like karma and discipline and responsibility, your relationships are on the chopping block for better or for worse. Again, all sort of relationships. So Saturn goes retrograde every single year. It's nothing to like, run away from and hide from, but it's just you want to kind of assess and audit and weigh out your relationships, both good and bad, and just sort of see what's going on because it's likely to be revisited later. On the same day, Jupiter is exiting shadow period in your 9th house. So this is exciting because Jupiter has already done its retrograde cycle. So it was coming forward in Taurus, and then it went retrograde, and then it had to retrace its steps through the retrograde. And now we're here where it's uncharted territory. We have not covered these degrees in Taurus yet. So it's very exciting in terms of it being growth, abundance, opportunity. It's really, again, like taking up more space, expanding yourself. It's new beliefs, new perspectives. You are now facing a new environments, new phases, new opportunities, but with a newfound perspective that was wisdom you only gained through experience. It's not that you studied more. It's not that you researched more about this next phase of life. It's that you're more prepared than you were this time last year, basically. So that's exciting because, again, it's happening in your 9th house of traveling, faith, philosophy, education. This can be anything from like going on vacations, like literally traveling to foreign land. It can be learning a new language. It can be expressing your beliefs, maybe posting like content on social media. It can be sharing your beliefs, your ethics, sticking up for what you believe in. It can be writing more, really exercising your voice, but on a larger scale. It's less about sharing your opinion in the group chat and more about like creating a blog that goes viral. It's really wisdom, again, that you gain from experience, maybe getting a mentor, taking a course, anything like that. On the spiritual revelations as well and religious awakenings. On the 24th, Venus in your 7th house is going to be sextile Jupiter in your 9th house. Super exciting for, again, relational growth, whether that be romantically, platonically, financially. You've heard me say it over and over again. But Venus and Jupiter are both benefics. They both want to give you very good things. So when they're aspecting in the sky, especially in a supportive aspect, this is like good luck. This is like the day to play the lotto. This is the day to launch something. This is the day to, post that video you've been wanting to go viral, or to even like make a fun, frivolous purchase that you've been like, let me just save this for a rainy day. Like it has that exciting, expansive, growth, but good luck and good fortune. Anything you want to grow, that's the day you plant the seed, and it will likely become very abundant. Again, between your 7th house of relationships, how you interact with other people, and the 9th house of going far and wide with your voice, with your experience, or with your opportunities that will be presented to you. On the 25th, you're having a full moon lunar eclipse, so a major ending to a beginning that began back in October of 2023 in regards to your 2nd house of finances and money. This is everything that has to do with you. The 2nd house is your belongings, your possessions, your investments. I don't know why I can't speak today. I'm sorry. Your ownership, anything that's in your name when we talk about finances, but it's also your values, your confidence, your self-worth, your boundaries, the things that you determine for you and you only. Of course, there's things you determine for yourself that protect you from other people, but this really has a lot to do with like what belongs to you, your personal style, the skills that you have, the things of value to you, your confidence. So to have a full moon lunar eclipse here, there was something back in last fall that either financially was like a big new beginning. Maybe you launched something, maybe you started a business, maybe you took out a mortgage, like anything in regards to making very big investments, whether they were literally like with money or metaphorically and like, you know, an internal investment that you made in yourself where you're like, I'm no longer going to put up with this thing. Or like from now on, I'm only going to accept these sort of people into my life. Dude, I don't know why I'm talking like this right now. But having the full moon lunar eclipse here is a major, maybe relational, because it is in Libra, again, having to do with people close to you, people you work with, or even enemies as well, ending to something that began back then. I'm going to do a separate video on that as well, so keep an eye out for it. And then we end the month on the 26th with Venus in a sextile to Uranus in the 9th house. So same idea, Venus being love, money, beauty, pleasure, things that feel good, things that are graceful, harmonious, very giving, very warm and fuzzy, things that we want. I always say that Venus is like the frivolous surface level joys in life. It's having a crush on somebody, it's eating your favorite food, it's finding $10 on the floor. It's just anything that would make anybody be like, oh my God, I wish I could have this feeling all the time. Having that in a sextile to Uranus, again in your 9th house of opportunities, beliefs, going far and wide, maybe traveling. This is incredible for, I feel like there's something, because so much focus for you this month is in regards to the people that you relate to and surround yourself with very closely, that know you pretty well or that you have a shared goal with. And then your habits, your routines are a big thing, but then also this personal transformation. You're kind of like having this interwoven thing where you're assessing the people close to you for better or for worse. You're deciding who can come with you and who can't come with you. That's also reflecting on your self-worth and the growth that you're having with your self-worth. But then you're also at the same time like embarking on this journey where you are going to new places, you're reaching new levels, you're seeing new things, you're getting a clear vision of like where you want to land. And it's the decisions that you're making now in your habits and your routines and your everyday life, the way you take care of your body, the way you take care of like the actual labor of your life, like what is required for you to keep the ball rolling in your life, as well as the people close to you and how they either help or hinder you, is really solidifying that crystal clear image of where you're going. And I think that the opportunities are going to start sprouting up this month, and that's where you're going to have to make those decisions where you're like, does this align with those values I have? Does this align with the financial goals I have? Does this make sense with those like things that I really said I was going to commit to? And that's where you're going to need to take yourself very seriously. But Venus and Uranus, again, is unexpected joy, unexpected pleasure, unexpected things that feel good. So if something exciting comes up, but it's not your usual, or it's like something you would never really agree to, but you're like, I don't know, I'm getting this like internal excitement about it, now is the time to say yes to it. It's not the time to overthink it. It's not the time to, Virgo, hyperanalyze it, look at every nitty-gritty detail. It's the time to sort of take that leap of faith, but make sure that it aligns with things that are positively supporting your growth, rather than putting you back in the same old cycle of like low self-worth, just taking the bare minimum, only focusing on like getting your basic needs met and not all the ushy-gushy, like exciting feel-good stuff, because that's what we want to be focusing on this month.